The crisp autumn air of Port Charles carried more than just the scent of wood smoke and roasting turkey during the week of November 24th. As families gathered to give thanks, the fragile foundations of several lives were shaken, proving that while a Thanksgiving table could be set for harmony, it was often served with a side of simmering betrayal and chilling revelations. This was a week where the past refused to stay buried, where professional facades cracked under pressure, and where a single, calculated move threatened to topple an empire of secrets. At the center of it all was the increasingly precarious world of Sonny Corinthos and the woman who held his heart, a world now squarely in the crosshairs of a man who believed his vengeance was long overdue. The most pressing and perilous drama continued to unfold around the mysterious collapse of the MCU roof, an event that had left Detective Harrison Chase critically injured and the entire Port Charles Police Department pointing fingers. The primary target, as dictated by the venomous Commissioner Monty, was Sonny Corinthos. Monty, a man whose personal grudge against Sonny was as deep as it was irrational, saw this as his final, definitive opportunity to bury the mob kingpin under a mountain of charges, from attempted murder to conspiracy. He pushed his department relentlessly, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and haste that blinded them to any other possibilities. It was within this pressure cooker that Cody Bell found himself trapped. The physical evidence, a Corinthos-branded cigarette lighter found at the scene, had been planted in his locker, and he knew with chilling certainty who was responsible: his own father, Detective Dante Falconeri. Confronting Dante was a maelstrom of emotion. Cody, the son who had always lived in the shadow of his father's badge, accused Dante of a desperate, unforgivable act to frame an innocent man and protect the organization he secretly served. Dante, his face a mask of conflicted torment, did not deny the act, but reframed it as a necessary evil. He confessed to planting the evidence, but insisted it was not to frame Sonny, but to protect the true culprit, whose exposure would cause even greater devastation. This confession sent shockwaves through the small, trusted circle privy to the truth. Dante revealed that the person responsible for the compromised building materials, the root cause of the collapse, was none other than his own mother, Olivia Quartermain. In a tragic error born of cutting corners to save the family's hotel business money, Olivia had signed off on substandard supplies. The roof's failure was a direct result of her decision. Dante, faced with an impossible choice between his mother's freedom and his father's empire, chose blood. He fabricated evidence against Sonny to divert Monty's rabid investigation away from Olivia, knowing that if the truth came out, she would face ruin and imprisonment, and the Falconeri family would be shattered. This devastating secret now became a chain linking Sonny, Dante, Cody, and Olivia in a silent, terrified pact. While the Corinthos camp fought a defensive battle, another strategist was moving his pieces across the board with cold precision. Mason, the ever-looming enforcer for pikemen, continued his campaign of psychological warfare against Alexis Davis. His demands escalated beyond mere intimidation. He wanted her to use her platform at the Invader to launch a series of defamatory stories about Sonny, painting him as an unstable, violent menace to the city. Mason understood that public opinion was a weapon, and he aimed to isolate Sonny completely before moving in for the kill. Alexis, trapped between her journalistic integrity and the safety of her loved ones, was pushed to her ethical brink, her spirit fraying under the constant, menacing pressure. This pressure reached its boiling point in a very public and shocking confrontation. As the community gathered for a pre-Thanksgiving charity event, Mason, dissatisfied with Alexis's progress, decided to send an unambiguous message. In front of a horrified crowd, he violently assaulted Alexis, leaving her bruised and humiliated. The attack was not just a punishment for her, it was a statement to anyone who might consider defying pikemen. The incident sent ripples of fear through the city's underworld and placed Alexis in a position of profound vulnerability, forcing her to question how much more she could endure before she broke completely. It was against this backdrop of fear and coercion that Marshall Ashford made a stand. Witnessing the attack on his friend and understanding the broader threat pikemen posed, he decided the time for quiet observation was over. He approached Sonny, not as a cop, but as a concerned citizen and a former soldier who recognized the tactics of a hostile force. Marshall laid out his theory for Sonny. Pikeman was not a traditional rival. It was a sophisticated, private mercenary organization embedding itself within Port Charles's infrastructure. Their goal was not to win turf wars, but to dismantle and absorb existing operations, and they were using political and media manipulation as their primary tools. This intelligence was a crucial piece of the puzzle for Sonny, shifting the battle from a simple street fight to a complex, multi-front war. Amidst the chaos, the Corinthos compound prepared for Thanksgiving, a bastion of attempted normalcy. Karla, ever the resilient matriarch, worked to create a sanctuary of tradition for her family. The table was laden with a golden turkey, steaming stuffing, and all the trimmings, but the conversation around it was strained. The unspoken threats, the legal battles, and the weight of Dante's secret hung heavy in the air. The traditional expressions of gratitude were offered, but they were tinged with a desperate hope for survival. The warmth of the hearth fought a losing battle against the cold dread seeping in from the outside world. It was a poignant reminder that for this family, peace was the most elusive luxury of all. The holiday gathering, however, was not confined to one address. At the Quartermaine mansion, another Thanksgiving table was the stage for its own high-stakes drama. Tracy Quartermaine, never one to miss an opportunity for a power play, used the occasion to continue her subtle but relentless campaign to drive a wedge between Brooke Lynn and her fiancé, Harrison Chase. With Chase still hospitalized and vulnerable, Tracy preyed on Brooke Lynn's fears, suggesting that a life with a damaged police officer was a far cry from the secure, powerful future she could have as the heiress to the Quartermaine legacy. She dangled the prospect of total control of ELQ and the family fortune, appealing to Brooke Lynn's ambition and her latent fears about the dangers of Chase's profession. This psychological manipulation found a fertile ground in Brooke Lynn's anxious mind. Visits to Chase's bedside were heartbreaking. The vibrant, witty detective was diminished, trapped in a broken body, and the path to recovery seemed agonizingly long and uncertain. Tracy's insidious whispers began to color Brooke Lynn's perspective. She started to see Chase's condition not just as a tragedy, but as an insurmountable obstacle to the life she had envisioned. The love was still there, a fierce, bright flame, but it was now competing with the cold, calculating voice of her grandmother and the daunting reality of a future filled with uncertainty and sacrifice. The foundation of one of Port Charles's most beloved couples was being systematically eroded, not by a lack of love,